Hello, everyone. Sorry that last live stream was not working. I got to the bottom of the problem and restarted it. So that is wonderful. I'm here to talk about Fulfill Yearnity today. And please let me know in the chat if you can't hear me. I think it should be better now because it looks to me like I have bars when I didn't have bars before. Okay. Yay, people can hear me. Aaron Obke? I don't know what that is, Brendan, but that's cool. So okay, we're going to talk about Fulfill Yearnity today. Let me so this is what I want to say about Fulfill Yearnity. To start talking about Fulfill Yearnity, I feel like it's important for me to say some things about God and stick with me when I talk about this, especially if maybe the idea of God isn't like really something you're that into. Please stick with me still and see if I can frame this in a way that's a little different than maybe the cliche sort of religious things you may have heard about God before that may have alienated you. What I want to say about God comes from or is inspired by something called the Gospel of Thomas. And the Gospel of Thomas is this text that has been found in like a sealed area in more recent times. It was supposedly written by Thomas the Apostle, like doubting Thomas. And it supposedly has some words of Jesus. Are they historical words of Jesus? I don't know. Is what is currently in the Bible the historical word of Jesus? I don't know. A lot of it I believe is, but a lot of it I believe, was people doing their best to write things down and they remembered. Also, a lot of it, is people over the years change it into their agendas. Is the Gospel of Thomas the same way? I don't know for sure. But I can say this. There's a statement at the beginning of the Gospel of Thomas that I find really impactful. And according to this little document, Jesus is talking to his disciples and he says, "Where is the kingdom of God?" He says, "Is the kingdom of God in the sky or in the birds or in the ocean?" He asks all these questions, these rhetorical questions about where the kingdom of God is. And he says, "If the kingdom of God is in the sky, then the sky is greater than you. If the kingdom of God's in the ocean, then the ocean is greater than you. If the kingdom of God is in the birds, then the birds are greater than you." He says, "No, the kingdom of God is within you," which is a statement we do have, in the modern Bible. The kingdom of God is within you. And so I think this is really powerful that when we look and try to discover God, the idea of God outside ourselves, we look somewhere else to find God outside ourselves. It can diminish ourselves. But when we look inside ourselves and find God there, we discover our greatness. The way I look at it is that God is this, this being that is, we talk about omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent, right? I believe that God's this being that's just like huge and is everything. And that when other beings come into existence, which we might call the children of God, those beings come into existence because a piece of God is able to say, "I am." And when a piece of God, you can imagine God is this vastness of energy and matter and goodness and light. And then a piece of God says, "I am." And when a piece of God is able to say, "I am," then in that moment, God God like gives birth, so to speak. It's not that different from on Earth, right? On Earth, a mother is a distinct being, and then there's some cells in her start to become a separate being, and there's this gradual process of the cells in a mother gradually being able to becoming a being who's separate from the mother's body, right? And then actually separates out from the mother, but is still really attached to the mother and needs the mother to live every single moment. Um, and father can help too, and other family can help too. We want that. Um, and the baby gradually learns to be able to say I am and distinguish themselves as someone separate from the mother whose cells they started out as, right? Well, mother and father, I guess. And so I see it like that with God. Like God's this vast spirit being, and in within God, part of God says I am, and then becomes an independent being. And that's like how a spirit is born. And so that spirit that's born still like isn't, just like a baby gradually becomes independent, that spirit still is God, right? That spirit is gradually becoming independent. And I see it like we have a spirit that gives life to this physical form we have, right? That spirit that came from God comes and creates a relationship with a body, and the spirit and body are both distinct beings, right? That spirit comes with all sorts of experience from God's presence, and then the body has its own stuff, right? The body inherits all sorts of stuff through DNA, and the body has a brain and a circulatory system and all these parts to it that have their own distinct part, right? um like if you change the body, it changes the personality, right? If you it's been very proven, we can't argue the fact that if you pull out a piece of someone's brain, their personality changes, right? If you introduce new bacteria to someone's stomach, it can change their personality too, right? So our body very much is part of our personality. And so when we talk about our personality or our mind or our thought process, I see that like our spirit and our body get together and have a relationship. And that relationship is who we are. We're not spirit, we're not body, we're the relationship of the two. And what's significant for this for me is the spirit part of us is like quantum, right? The spirit part of us exists beyond the confines of time and space that our bodies are bound by. So even while our spirit is co-possessing is possessing our body with us, right? Is co-having this experience, our spirit is privy to the eternal state that our spirit always is in, right? So our spirit is like simultaneously experiencing our body and experiencing God's presence right now at the same time, because spirits aren't bound by the rules of physical things the way our bodies are. Atom, and we can measure, we already know this is possible even with science. An electron can exist at two places at once. This is a thing that has been proven over and over again with science. I believe that spirit matter is matter. It's matter and energy are the same thing, right? Matter turns to energy, energy turns to matter. And so our matter of our spirit is, energy and matter at the same time, and it's something like a quantum state where things can exist in more than one place at once, and things are in all times at once, right? Our spirit's in that kind of state while going along with this bodily experience. So our spirits are in this eternal place beyond time, before God's face right now. I think of this when I read some of the teachings of Jesus, where he says that he's talking about little children, right? And these people are saying that Jesus is too important; he shouldn't hang out with kids. And he says, "No, suffer the children to come unto me." As he talks about the children, he says that their spirits are continually before the face of God. He's talking about the children, but we're all little children here on this earth. We're all, rather young creatures compared to something like God. And so I believe that Jesus' description of children at that time can apply to all all spirits of everyone, that their spirits are continually before the face of God. Now, the implication of this that's really important is that that means that your spirit and my spirit, and if you don't want to call it spirit, call it subconscious, whatever you want to call it. There's a part inside of all of us um, that is aware of the space beyond time and is aware of our potential. And our spirit is like, before God's face, and can just access from that space of eternal space our potential. And so our body form is like moving towards our potential, but the spirit's already there. And so if we can connect to the part of our spirit that already knows our potential, then that can just carry us to that space. We don't have to work so hard for it. We can be pulled towards it like gravity. Like I jump and gravity pulls me right back down. If I discover my yearnity, the yearnity my spirit already knows, then my body can be pulled towards it just like gravity pulls me towards the earth. It doesn't need to be so hard to reach our potential. It doesn't need to feel so like pushy. You can just kind of let it happen. But there's a thing with this. One of the things that keeps all this from happening, that keeps our spirits from just kind of like, keeps our spirits from just sort of naturally moving us towards our yearnity, towards our potential. One of the things that keeps that from happening is conditioning that we get throughout our body, throughout our lives. So imagine an elephant with me. Imagine a baby elephant. Baby elephants are not as strong as adult elephants. They're little guys. And if in a circus or a zoo or something, if people feel like it's important to chain up elephants, I don't know. I'm kind of against chaining up elephants, but maybe there's certain situations where that's a legitimate thing. All morality is determined by context. So there might be some context in which that's appropriate. But let's say that someone wants to chain up an elephant. And let's assume they're doing it for malicious reasons. They want to control the elephant, right? And keep the elephant from being free. If they were to get an elephant that's already grown up and put a chain around it, the elephant would just break the chain. There might be a chain out there somewhere that's strong enough to hold an elephant with the right kind of metal. But the problem is that, that might be cost effective, right? It'd be really expensive to find a chain like that. So the cost effective chains that are reasonable to have cannot hold the elephant. So the people that want to control the elephant get the elephant as a baby and put a chain on the elephant. And the baby elephant is little and he's not as strong. And so the baby elephant is able to cannot break the chain. And the baby elephant tries and tries and tries to break the chain, learns that it can't. Then it grows into an adult elephant and it could break the chain now, but it doesn't try anymore because it got conditioned as a baby to think it couldn't. And this is what happens with us is we have this conditioning, right? We grow up having certain experiences that lead us to think certain things about our potential. And some of it's inherited, right? Our ancestors that from whom our bodies come, our ancestors had certain experiences that cause them to believe limiting things about what they're capable of. And that gets passed on in our DNA to us. And then we're raised by people who continue to pass on those things, right? Like the people who raise us have certain limiting beliefs about themselves and about us. And as we're growing up, they constantly communicate that to us in all sorts of ways, verbal, spoken, and unspoken. And then we have certain experiences as we grow up that lead us to also believe limiting things about ourselves. And once all that comes together, our bodies have all sorts of limiting beliefs that prevent us from believing what our spirits want to tell us about our yearnity. And this is why it's important to, if we want to reach our yearnity, to just process our trauma and our emotions and go and look at our false beliefs and address them, right? The very first virtue of the 13 seasons is fulfill yearnity. And all the other virtues help us to do that. It's like the goal of all of them. In fact, you can tell if something is virtuous or not. The ultimate test is does it fulfill yearnity? If it fulfills yearnity, it's virtuous. If it doesn't fulfill yearnity, it's not. That's like the ultimate test. And so when we're doing all the other virtues that are the other 12 seasons, we're always doing them with the intention of fulfilling virtue, and all of them support that purpose. And two of the other virtues are process emotions, the 5th season, and increase understanding, the 8th season. And so if we want to change our beliefs and let go of and stop believing that these chains can, if I'm an adult elephant now who needs to just stop believing that these chains can hold me, one thing I can do is process emotions. And I can discover the experiences I had that limited me. And those experiences I had a strong emotion with them, or they're my ancestors' experience had a strong emotion with it. And in order for my body to let go of that experience, I need to let go of the emotion that was associated with it. It's like a knot in me. And so I process that. And on 13seasons.org, if you go to the process emotions part of the page, there's lots and lots and lots and lots of tools there that teach about processing emotions. I won't go there. You can learn them. I won't delve too much into that right now, but it's really, really important to process those emotions. And there's tons of tools there that can help you do it. But the other one, the increased understanding, in addition to processing the emotions, it's important to increase understanding. And increased understanding has to do with schema. Schema is the network of understanding that we have, right? I have an understanding of how the world works and who I am and what I'm about and what my relationships are about. And that understanding of how all that fits together is called schema. And my schema includes all sorts of beliefs about myself. And so it's important, and alongside processing my emotions, it's important to change my schema about myself and what I can do. How do you do that? There's lots of ways. Trying to decide which one I want to share, which of the ways I want to share with you now. One way is to write out your beliefs. So get a piece of paper and write out the things that you believe about yourself and the limitations that you believe. Maybe write down why you believe those things, what experiences led to believing them. Write all of that out. And then after you write it all out, rip up that paper and destroy it as a symbol that you're changing your beliefs. Then got a fresh piece of paper and write down the new beliefs you have about yourself. Then put that paper up next to a mirror, and once or twice or maybe even 3 times a day, look in that mirror and read those new beliefs out loud. That's one way that you can let go of old beliefs about yourself and build new beliefs. And something that can help you with this as you try to figure out what those beliefs are is to talk to your deep down part, right? To ask yourself questions. When I was a teacher at a different school than I teach at now, it's a school down the road from me. I was teaching there during COVID, and during COVID, the school counselor or the district counselor, she's like a district mental therapist, mental health professional. Once a week, she would, over Zoom, share with the entire school different tools that students and teachers could use to address mental health. And so this is like in a non-spiritual, non-religious kind of setting, very secular setting. And she said that it's really powerful to ask yourself questions. So she says, she would have people like get really quiet and like breathe and focus on their breathing, then look inside themselves and just be aware of like the deepest part of themselves, then maybe even go deeper than that. So find the deepest part of yourself, then go 10% deeper. And then while you're in that space, say, self, what belief should I let go of next? And write it down. And then say, in that same space, say, self, what belief would be good? Could I replace that with? And write it down. Ask yourself, or you can ask yourself, what fulfills my yearnity? What's the next thing I can try to fulfill my yearnity? See what comes to you and write it down. I would now I did this. I've done this many times. I ever since she did that, I do this all the time. And when I do that, like interesting ideas pop into my head that really helped me a lot in my journey. And I don't. This therapist didn't really give much detail on like what's going on there. She just said, your subconscious knows what you need, and so trust yourself and listen to your subconscious is the way she put it. I'd put it this way, that your spirit's in the presence of God and your spirit knows what's up. And when you go to your deepest self, you're talking with your own spirit. Or you can call it your God self, your eternal self. Maybe those are more accurate terms than just spirit. You're talking with your highest self and asking yourself, who's in the presence of God, what belief do I let go of? What belief do I accept? What do I do next to fulfill my yearnity? And then the part of yourself that's in God's presence and unified with God gives you an answer. And that's an answer that you can trust. And the cool thing is, it's not some external being who rules over you. It's not an external being like sometimes people are hesitant to do what God says because they don't want some like God who may or may not have their best interests in heart, like telling them what to do. They might really not want some religious leader who they're not sure is speaking for God or not telling them what to do. But this is yourself talking to yourself, just the part of yourself that knows, and getting the answer from them. I think that's all I have for today. I'm going to take a second. If anyone has any questions, they can post that in the chat and I will answer them. I'm open to all and any kinds of questions. I'm open to even if you disagree with me or you have some concerns about something I said that doesn't feel right to you, please put that in the chat. Let's address it. I'm going to wait just a short amount of time to do that. And then after I waited maybe a minute or so, then I am going to do a meditation to close our time together today. Brendan asks, how do I fulfill Yearnity when it feels like a long journey and I don't know the steps to do it? That's a very reasonable question. It can be really daunting to feel like there's this big, long process towards your Yearnity. And frankly, it's my belief that your ultimate Yearnity is going to take more than being alive, the time you're going to be alive right now. I believe that fulfilling your Yearnity takes a lot of, you've been working on a long time before you were born, and you're going to work on a long time after you're born through many different kinds of assignments and lifetimes and work and things. So yeah, it's a big thing. And this is my answer to that. The joy and satisfaction and sense of completeness and wholeness that comes from having reached your ultimate potential can be available to you right now. You know, through something like through meditation or other kinds of spiritual practices, you can feel as if you've already reached your ultimate potential right now, because those practices take you beyond time. And so even though you're not there yet, you can enjoy things as if you were there all the time. And having said that, it's actually you doing that will actually help you get there because when you're the more you have experiences like that where you experience what it feels like to have reached your potential already, the more it naturally pulls you towards it, and it's not so much work. um Now that said, resistance is important. Muscles don't get strong unless they push against weight. It's important to face resistance in this life to grow. But resistance doesn't have to be a negative experience. Eckhart Tolle talks about how when it comes to experiences in life, we can accept them, enjoy them, or be enthusiastic about them. And acceptance of the three, acceptance is the most accessible, right? There might be some things you're like, I cannot enjoy this. There's no way I can enjoy this. That's okay. Just accept it. Stop trying to let go of the hope that it could be any other way, because that's not the kind of hope that helps you. Let go of the hope that it could be any kind of way, any other way, and just let yourself experience it. Let yourself fully be in it. And then with some things, we can enjoy them. Enjoyment to start is usually for things that would otherwise be boring, right? So it's things that aren't really awful, they're just kind of boring. And we can learn to just be in our senses in those moments and find ways to enjoy them, right? Like some people might go to a garden and walk around and find it really boring, where another person that knows that's learned how to appreciate a garden is going to enjoy it. So we can learn to enjoy the things that otherwise be boring. The enthusiasm is for acts of creativity. When we're getting really creative, we have enthusiasm. And the word enthusiasm, the theo in the middle is reference to God in Latin. So it's in God iasm. So enthusiasm is the experience of feeling in God or in the creative state that God is, right? It's in creation, in creativity. And so enthusiasm, is for like when you're like getting stuff, when you're like just feel the joy or the that's more than joy. You feel the enthusiasm of creating something new and organizing things and making something come together that wasn't there before. That's good for you and others. That's for enthusiasm. And it's my belief that Eckhart Tolle says that you use acceptance for crummy things, enjoyment for otherwise mundane or boring things, and enthusiasm to really enjoy like those exhilarating times, right? That's the way Eckhart Tolle says it. It's my personal belief that as we practice these, we can actually start climbing that ladder in more and more ways. So right now, the really crummy stuff, you might only be able to accept it, and that's okay. But you can get to the point where you can weirdly, and I feel this at times, not all the times, where you can really actually experience joy while experiencing the crummy stuff. You can be experiencing sadness and have joy under it. An example of how this can happen is when, if someone's really, really sad and you don't try to tell them how to feel, but you just go and give them a hug and just connect with them, you feel sad with them and you feel the joy of love at the same time. And you can do that with yourself when you hug yourself. So it's possible to have joy even in hard times, but don't start trying to have joy. Start by just learning to accept those times and progress up to joy. And eventually you get to the point where even in hard times, you experience enthusiasm. But don't try to start there, because you have to climb to that point. Even the boring times can be experienced like enthusiasm, right? because God experiences enthusiasm all the time. God cries, and God cries with enthusiasm. God imbues all emotions with a certain internal greatness and exhilaration that is enthusiasm. Brendan, let me know if that helped you. If in the chat, if there's more, I can. If there's like another level to your question that brings up, please add it. And I would add that you may hear what I say and intellectually say, okay, that makes sense, but your emotions might not be ready to accept that. Right? You might have some trapped emotions or some beliefs, some false beliefs that make it so you can intellectually accept what I'm saying, but emotionally and belief wise, you can't really like embody it yet. And that's okay. Just be open to the idea for now and let yourself have experiences and make time to process. You can say, you can go to your deepest self and say, hey, what emotions are good for me to process so that I can believe that thing I learned? And then start writing whatever comes to you from there and rip it up. And see, and then write some new beliefs and put them on the wall and practice saying them every day in the mirror and see if that helps. Devin asks, how would you say to address your new beliefs to those who knew you for a long time with the old ones? Oh, Devin, that's a cool question. This is hard. Okay, yeah. One of the tricky things is that everyone's schema involves a certain idea of who everyone else is and what roles they play. So everyone else that you know has a schema about you. And they have a certain belief system about the role you play in their lives and the way you respond to things. So as you start changing, other people, because we don't like our schema to change. Schema changing can feel really and we do like our schema change. We like to learn, but I mean, we get our bodies reward us for learning because learning leads to survival. But at the same time, our bodies also in another way, also at the same time, reward us for not changing our schema too quickly. Because if our schema were to constantly change too fast, we wouldn't be stable. And so our bodies want to keep us stable, and our bodies are kind of concerned about that, right? And so, so it's really important for us to recognize this and realize that that other people aren't going to change their schema too quickly about who you are because their bodies are trying to keep them safe because they've had a bunch of experiences with you where they've got a certain idea, and as long as and their schema is built to say, oh, this person is like this, now I know where they fit, I'm good. And the body honestly shorthands those things because we only have so much like energy and stuff. And so our body oftentimes makes kind of shorthand schema connections about who people are, especially people we don't know as well. Maybe sometimes with people we know really well. And our body makes shorthand connections about people, and people become like a role to us. They become like we see people as a role instead of seeing them as like a complete complicated person. And that's just our body trying to deal with having a lot of relationships and making sense of them. Some of this might be a side effect of actually interacting with too many people, right? Like our body's only built to handle 150 or less relationships, and our tribal ancestors maybe could see each other as whole people more because they didn't have as many people in their lives. But in our modern day, when we, have so many people in our lives and we're always meeting new people all the time, you walk down the street and someone just walks up to you you've never met before, right? Your body instantly needs to like figure out who they are in the schema so that you know how to react to them. And so you look at like the color of their skin and how tall they are and whether they look male or female, and what kind of clothes they're wearing, if they're wearing a uniform or not. You look at those things, you instantly make judgments so your body can try to keep you safe. And if they have something about how they look or smell or something that you associate with someone who's hurt you, then you instantly, your body's instantly like, oh, look out for this person, right? And then we have all these stereotypes and judgments and racism and sexism and things like that come into play. So when you start to change, other people are going to need to come around and make new beliefs about you. One, it's important to be patient with that and understand that's just the way their brains work. And that's their brains trying to keep them safe. And you can, say, I'm grateful their brain is trying to keep them safe. The brain's trying to do a good job. That's a starting point. Then from there, it's just a matter of helping them come around in a way that isn't like forceful. Because when you're forceful with people, they'll probably push back against you. And so you don't want to push too hard because then they'll push back because because they feel like if you push too hard on people to try to get them to think different than they do, their anger comes up, and anger is there to protect our boundaries. And so their brain and their subconscious says, "Oh no, this person is trying to get me to think differently than I do. I want to have a boundary and be in control of my own thoughts. I better protect myself from them. I'll push back harder to, make sure they don't change my thoughts because I want to be in control of my own thoughts, right?" So that happens. So if you're too pushy about wanting them to change, that's going to be a tricky thing that's going to happen. Um, so what do you do instead of being pushy? I think it's unique to each situation, and I think that we can learn to trust that intuition deep inside ourselves I've been talking about, and learn something that will work for each relationships and each situation. So there's a specific person you're thinking of who you wish would understand that your beliefs are changing and you're doing things and seeing things differently the way you are now. Then I recommend sitting by yourself, have a piece of paper and a pen handy, close your eyes, focus on your breathing a little bit, go to the deepest part of yourself, whatever that feels like to you, then go even deeper than that. And if you can, maybe even try going even deeper than that and get to the deepest and have the intention of getting to the deepest, truest part of who you are. Then once you're there, just ask, what can I do that would help so and so, say their name, understand the changes I've made and change their schema accordingly. And then take that piece of paper and just write down whatever comes to you. Trust your gut and try it and see what happens. And then you'll be doing something that's uniquely fitted to you, and it'll come from you instead of from me. And so you'll be learning to trust yourself, which is something, I want for everyone. Um, Devin, if you want to, you can put in the chat whether or not you feel like that addressed your question. And I'll wait a second to see if anyone else has any other questions. Brendan says, yes, thank you. That was helpful. Cross fingers it goes well. And I'm here with you, Brendan, or Devin, sorry. Wishing that for you as well. I want to end with a meditation now. Please go ahead and close your eyes with me. Breathe with your belly and your chest. Big breath. Feel lots of life and breath and air coming into your life with your body with each breath. When your body has more air, your body feels more safe. Fill up your lungs and your belly with this air. Be aware of a person before you. And this person is you, but they're sad. They're kind of looking away. They're afraid to look you in the eyes. Put a hand on your own shoulder and say, Self, I'm sorry you're afraid to look me in the eyes. I'd like to look you in the eyes. Will you give it a try? And make eye contact with yourself and see yourself for who you truly are. And you see yourself standing tall with confidence and nobility. You see light within your body that emanates from your body, the light of goodness and the light of truth, because you're witnessing your true self, not your conditioned self. You see yourself doing things that you hadn't considered that you could do. Notice what you see yourself doing. Let the confidence of that seep into your core. And you become aware of a seed and everything that you experienced yourself doing just now that you didn't know you could do before goes into this seed. And this seed contains all of those things. And you plant the seed in your own belly, and it takes root. And the roots go deep down towards your feet. They get very rooted very, very well, meaning that this plant is going to be successful and it's going to grow well. And the plant grows up through the top of your belly, up into your chest, into your shoulders, down to your arms, branches going every which way. It comes up into your head and out the top of your head. And it's this beautiful, beautiful tree. It's so tall. And this is your potential. It's a big tree. And the tree has like a face on it. And the face of the tree is your face. And the face of the tree says these words: You can do it. You've done it already in the future. Just let the program play itself out in your time and we gravitate to the future. And then fruit appears on the tree. And if you look in the fruit, you can see images on the fruit, like a reflection on the fruit. And the images are images of all sorts of interesting things that you're going to do with your life that you never considered before. And you fly around the tree and look at all the interesting things you'll do. It's reflected on all these different pieces of fruit. And you're content. This is true. It is. Smile. Let what you're experiencing now, let the intelligence of it, the consciousness of it, seep into all the cells of your body so that it's who you are. And as you slowly open your eyes, let what you've experienced here merge with your normal waking state. And smile and be glad. Happy Fulfill Yearnity season. From the standpoint of a virtue year, this season is New Year's. And it's when all the flowers are coming out and life is emerging in nature. I'm happy for new life to emerge in you this season, and then for that process to continue all throughout the virtue year. I wish you the best. I wish you your best self in the sense of your best self now as it manifests one season at a time.